Can I ask you both? Because obviously in Mackellar or in Lindsay, there would have been, the Maronite community or the Lebanese Christians or the Indigenous people or what are the Italian, whatever the sort of subset groups were, right? When the boss is out there talking about something that particular community may not be all that happy with, how do you bridge the gap between what the leader of the party is talking about and the very voters who might become a little bit jittery at what's being said? Particularly I'm thinking in and around, say, the aftermath of September 11, when the Islamic community clearly was, being discussed in a very different way than they were even 5 years earlier. How do you actually maintain those relationships?
When you do, you've established your relationships and you stick with them. And I've got to say that for many people who come from different parts of the world and come to Australia, they're very confused about the name Liberal Party, because where they come from, that's a dirty word. Yeah. So it can be quite confusing. But you build those personal relationships. And, I served as the member for Mackellar for, 23 years or something? You
did all right.
So I must have established a decent relation somewhere.
Again, for you, Fiona, when you're trying to win over a community, again, it's one thing to turn up to the lunches and the dinners and all that stuff and have your photo. But how do you actually begin to form a contact point with the people that we don't read about in the paper, with the people that we don't talk about on the telly? And I get it, it's four white people having this conversation, but still, people's national identity is increasingly important to people. Am I incorrect on that?
No, just before you do, Fiona, I can remember a very distressed Chinese woman coming to see me, whose husband still had maintained some business relationships in China, and he had been arrested and incarcerated. She had no idea where she was. He was alleged to have been corrupt. Now, her version of the story to me was that the communist operatives in the particular town where he had gone back had in fact wanted his business and arranged, and he'd disappeared and he was not a well man. So I was tasked with the responsibility of trying to find where he was. And I used all the contacts I had, and Rudd was the Prime Minister at the time, but he did have some good people in his staff who I could talk to. The long and the short of it was we found him.
Right.
But we couldn't get him out, but we could at least have consular visits. We could provide him with medicine.
So getting results for communities.
That's part of what being a member for your community is about. And I can recount that thousands of times across it. And those sorts of things are vital to having people understand what you stand for and what the party stands for.